can't tell you anything about exotic animals because I don't approve of them. Now, I have specific farm animals to take care of.
We're back, and things are scary. Oh, sorry, my accent is coming out.
That's very true. Okay, listeners, stuff is getting tense. If this is your first time tuning into this podcast,
you have to start at the start.
That's right. This is episode 10 of A Tangled Web. Please join us at episode 1.
And when you're finished listening, tell a friend about this podcast. It helps us find our audience. Don't you know a family?
Whether that family is 3 generations setting out on a spring road trip,
or an old man and a poodle connecting with their inner child through the magic of family literature.
Don't you know someone who needs this podcast in their life? Help them find us. Now, we are co-hosts Erin Alden and Ursula Buker, and you all know that already because you, listener, you've already listened to 10 of these intros. So let's get into it. Just so we're all straight, where is everybody?
All the animals and people are supposed to be in bed for the night, and mostly they are. But Minerva, Silver, and Gotina are now trapped in the high hayloft of the westerly barn.
What about Pearl and Zipnog and Grazzo?
Grazzo is ghosting around. Pearl is sulking and refusing to leave the cabin. Zipnog is still sleeping off her mild electrocution in the Tiffany lamp.
Content warnings?
Okay, so there's 3 goats trapped in a barn with unknown perils, but as I will continue to pledge for those who need spoilers.
Spoiler avoiders, skip 10 seconds. Skip 10 seconds.
The goats are gonna survive. This is a survival story. There is a time in this episode where the unknown danger gets a little more known, so it's a tense moment, but this time the danger passes pretty quickly. It's just a taste of the danger to come. And I promise the goats are all gonna make it. Also, Silver twice uses the mild curse word goat damn, which I think we can all agree is hilarious and not really offensive.
Guess we better get to it.
Let's go.
Somewhere in the air outside of FM's cabin, Grazzo was pulled back to the land of the living, or in his case, the unliving, by a bad smell. Or was it a bad feeling? Something like a dangerous dog wandering the neighborhood with its teeth bared.
"Where's FM?" he wondered. "Why do I keep coming back here? I never came back for so long, I think. And what is that smell?"
He thought of FM's cabin as he had seen it earlier being disrespected. Trashed, in fact, by his replacement,
That oafish canine. And that insane squirrel.
So, thinking of it, he made his ghostly form whoosh through the air, through the wall, to be inside the cabin again. He saw the dog sleeping on the lonely rug by FM's bed, uttering mournful snores. The squirrel was still knocked out in the bowl of the Tiffany lamp, sleeping the sleep of the not quite fatally electrocuted and reeking of singed hair and chocolate.
"It's a very bad smell. But not the bad smell that woke me up," he thought. "Where is that smell coming from?"
So, wondering, Grazzo was whooshed immediately through the twilight air to the old westerly barn above the concentration of the sour, dangerous smell, the sour, dangerous feeling, in time to see a man moving milk crates with a sinister aspect.
"Who is he? What is he doing, and why does he look so pleased about it? And Isn't this the place with the old music player?
So thinking of it, he was transported to the old gramophone. It was dark in there, in the room in the barn where the gramophone was, but not so dark as it had been when he'd been there before. Then it had been pitch black. Now there was a grungy yellow light burning. He heard hooves in the passageway.
I'm not here alone,
he thought, and he experienced a curious shiver down his non-corporeal spine.
Who's lit that old lamp?
He wondered, and he heard quiet bleating outside the room he was in.
Meh. And why are there goats in this old place? Are they FM's goats? Most likely, most surely. She always had more goats than sense.
He looked at the eerie, pulsing yellow light that spilled under the crack in the door, and he felt a pulse of his own power. Having nowhere else to go, this power of his went into the old gramophone. Gotina, Minerva, and Silver had squeezed their way through the darkest part of the barn's center passage, where the roof had caved almost completely, and just as they were coming out of the narrowest area to where the far side opened up, the music began. It came on suddenly, the sound of one violin playing slow, thrillingly. "What is that?" Silver demanded. "It could be a tomcat doing his special yowl for the lady cats," Minerva suggested. "Or a mule giving birth," Silver mused. "Or a new and very annoying type of owl." But Gotina stood still, trembling with recognition.
No, this is like those noises FM always does when she goes around, that singing stuff, but without words. I heard her make calls just like these when Lizzo's kid was born dead.
Minerva listened grimly. "A human noise of sadness," she agreed. "No, it's the tomcat," Silver said, and she stamped onward. "He's in here somewhere." She headed for the noise. "There! He's over there!" She navigated the alley of boxes and came to the far end of the barn, where the hallway broke off into two rooms, doors closed on rusty old hinges, but the sounds of the gramophone record poured out of the crack under the door. "Go, damn it, there's these human gate things!" "Where?" Minerva bleated, trying to find Silver in the hallway of books and boxes. It was then that the grungy yellow light, which had been providing some cheer in the old barn, flickered and buzzed out, and the music of human sadness, or the yowling tomcat, seemed louder in the gloom that fell. "Where are you, hellcat? Where are you, Silver?" Minerva bleated, trying to keep the panic out of her bleat now that they were plunged in darkness again, trying to stay strong for Gotina. "You can't hide from Silver!" Silver bellowed, and there was a smash of wood splintering and hard hoof falls, and "Bah! There you are!" And the music went out.
Silver, where are you?
Gotina called into the dark and the silence. "I saw him!" Silver called back, and they followed her way to a smashed open human gate. She had crashed right into it, right through it, and they picked their way through the splintery opening she had left. There was a window in this room, and fewer boxes, and they all saw Silver, her frosty coat glowing in the moonlight on her heaving sides, and on a strange box with an enormous thing like a white morning glory flower. "He was on there. I saw him. I saw him! A big, fat, blue cat. Where'd he go now?" Silver began stampeding around the room, shoving her nose into things. "Go, damn it!" She charged the shelf on which sat the white flower thing, and she smashed her hard young head into it, and the box, with its giant white flower, came crashing to the ground with a dissonant ring of ghostly music on it.
Where did you see him? What did you see? Gotina asked. I told you, a cat. A blue cat right here by this thing. And he was howling away and just sort of floating in the air. I'm out of here, Gotina said, and she bolted back out through the splintery hole in the door. Minerva ran over and began nuzzling Silver's neck. It wasn't right for Silver to be so agitated. You saw a blue cat floating in the air? Was it like the blue light we saw in the window before we came here? I don't believe in ghosts, Silver answered furiously, and she reared to crack Minerva on the head. Not goat ghosts, not cat goats. I came here to eat apples and to protect Gotina because she's a runty little weakling and to show everybody that I'm not scared of any roar or any ghosts neither. This speech might have gone on for much longer if Gotina had not just then let out a piercing bleat of pure caprine terror. Silver and Minerva at once galloped crashing through the busted door and out into the hallway. Gotina was standing in another room, an open door, across the barn's hallway from them. She was still bleating her long notes of terror and looked frozen to the spot. The other two goats ran full tilt to find Gotina and came crashing into the room. In the thin light of the sunset through the least grimy window, they saw it. On the floor of the room, rested on an ancient bed of straw, lay the bleached skeleton of a goat with one long, pointed horn, stained blood red at the tip. At that same time that the three goats were finding the skeleton, it was dinner in Millicent's kitchen.
Come here, doggy. You love your meatball, doggy.
Arcturix, get off the floor and sit on your seat.
Millicent snapped to her youngest child.
But, Mom, he's my dog. I'm feeding him under the table.
Arcturix rolled over onto his back and panted extravagantly, then gave a hound dog whine. Ow! He'd been practicing. He had seen it in the Aristocats. Layla gave him a meatball, which he obediently wolfed down. Then he sat up, licked his sister's hand, and hit her with the puppy dog eyes.
Another meatball, doggy. Another meatball.
Woof! Woof!
Sit pretty,
she told him, holding the meatball just out of his reach. I am sitting, the dog answered indignantly. It doesn't need to be pretty. Millicent tried to enlist her oldest child's help.
Sawyer, speak to your little brother. He looks up to you.
Mm-hmm.
Sawyer answered, but his eyes were on his plate. Or possibly in his lap.
Sawyer, are you listening to me, Sawyer? Sawyer, are you reading a book under the table? Sawyer, we don't read at the table.
Sawyer snapped the book shut.
I don't see why you don't let them have a dog, Mother. If you let them have a dog, Layla wouldn't need to feed Arcturix under the table.
Sit pretty,
Layla commanded.
Sawyer, my customers come to this farm to buy fresh-cut flowers and herbs in a beautiful and pastoral setting. A slavering, barking canine would completely destroy the dignity and repose of the experience.
Pastures have always had dogs, Mother.
Ow! Arcturix, you bit me! You little gremlin!
Layla lunged at Arcturix, but he was too fast. He chortled, leaped out of his doggy pose, feinted left, then right, then grabbed a fistful of meatballs with each hand and ran out of the door, his howling angry sister hot on his heels. Millicent and Sawyer gestured to the departing children with the same emphatic handshake and said, "You see?" to one another, both certain that the departing brawl illustrated their own point in the argument.
A cat, then. Let them have a cat apiece. They'd fight less if they had a cat to play with.
Cats eat songbirds.
Millicent responded crisply.
Songbirds are vital to the ecosystem and the ambience of the garden.
So they can be indoor cats.
It's cruel to keep cats indoors. It's not in their natures.
You can't have it both ways. Your children need pets. You made me grow up without any, and it was very lonely. It stunted me socially.
You're right. And that's why I've been giving this albino peacock idea of yours quite a bit of thought.
Of mine? It's not my idea. Mother, it's a terrible idea. No! I'm opposed to exotic pets, ethically and environmentally. Besides, Layla and Arcturus can't snuggle peacocks. Those things are vicious and unfriendly.
Sawyer, there's a man with a snake coming up the walk. See what he wants. And then it's time you went to take care of FM's animals.
I don't need to be reminded about FM's chores. Wait, what?
The doorbell rang.
Go on.
Millicent pointed her nose at the door. Sawyer opened the door to his very first glance of Scott, the new neighbor, wearing one of his customary luxury athleisure smart fits, his most winning of smiles, and Elvis the emerald tree boa around his shoulders.
Hi, it's me, the new neighbor at Scott. I just moved into the old Westerly place. I'm Scott, and this is Elvis.
Oh my goodness. Well, Scott and Elvis, how delightful. Finally, we get to meet the mysterious new neighbors. Well, hello, sir. How fascinating. We were just talking about extraordinary pets, and I must say, you did put a very nice house in.
Millicent cooed from over Sawyer's shoulder.
Well, welcome to the neighborhood.
Mother, if you were going to talk to him, why did you make me open the door?
Ha ha ha. You must be the lady of the house.
Scott chortled. Scott winked and pointed to Sawyer.
Is this your brother, ma'am?
Millicent genteelly elbowed Sawyer to the side.
Oh, come, sir. Don't be ridiculous. I won't be taken in by flattery. I'm Millicent, and this is my eldest child, Sawyer.
Pleased to meet you both. Sawyer, I heard you're the animal man in the neighborhood.
Animal man, hardly. Sawyer is a third-year literature major at Oberlin College. He'll soon be leaving the muck and mire of our domestic arrangements to live the life of a public intellectual.
Millicent gestured to Elvis.
And isn't this fellow magnificent? What a stunning pet. We were just talking about extraordinary pets, but my very intelligent son opposes me owning a single baboon. On very sturdy intellectual grounds for objection, I expect. But I'm not clever enough to follow his reasoning.
Naturally,
Scott said. It seemed he would have said naturally to whatever Millicent had said in that moment.
I'd say it rather seems that you are the animal man in the neighborhood.
And here Millicent reached out to Elvis.
What elegant marbling he has on his skin.
Well, Millicent, I see you're not afraid of snakes.
Scott responded.
Oh, not at all. I have a passion for unusual animals. Have you seen my 4 stud alpacas?
Sawyer watched on with mounting concern as the snake-wearing man with snap-on Lego hair flirted robotically with this cooing version of his mother.
Have I? They're magnificent. I always linger in the lane to watch them.
Sawyer was not fooled. What was this man doing here? He felt his mood turning foul. A man like this would be a terrible neighbor and a worse influence on his romantic mother.
Well, if you'll excuse me, sir, I have animals to care for,
he said, making his way to shoulder past them.
Wait, son. Do you have a hay bale or 2 I could borrow?
Hay? No one has hay you can borrow. It's late August. You have to pay for hay, and by now all the reasonably priced hay has been sold.
Well, maybe you can tell me. What do animals eat? I'm hoping for something fattening.
Scott laughed his automatic laugh.
Ha ha ha.
Sawyer pulled on his farm boots and picked up the bucket of slops for the pigs.
What kind of animal are you trying to fatten? I didn't think snakes ate hay. Excuse me, I have to go.
Ha ha. No, it's not for Elvis.
It's not for Elvis, obviously, Sawyer.
Millicent agreed. Then, as an aside to Scott,
College boys, all book smarts, but common sense?
No, son. It's for farm animals.
That's very vague.
Sawyer said, and he slammed down the slops bucket.
But if you insist, and you truly don't know what type of farm animals you have, I can see that I'll have to lay it all out. Chickens and turkeys eat scratch mix with 18% protein and ideally oyster shells. Pigs are omnivores and need a varied high-protein diet and plenty of fiber, but they like stale donuts and expired milk better than anything. Cows, horses, sheep, and alpacas do best on a carefully cultivated pasture featuring a blend of alfalfa, timothy, and not too much clover, eaten fresh or dried into hay.
Sawyer, lower your voice.
Millicent cautioned.
Mother, our new neighbor needs to know how to fatten farm animals, but as he doesn't know or isn't telling what sort of animals they are, I have a lot to cover. Goats can eat pasture, but they need to browse on trees and bushes. And all grazing and browsing animals take grain over the winter and supplemental minerals, including salt, throughout the year. Does that cover it?
Yes.
Scott began.
My son loves to lecture. He gets a bit carried away, but one can't blame him. His brain is just bulging with thoughts.
If you need more information, you can visit a feed store. I can't tell you anything about exotic animals because I don't approve of them. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have specific farm animals to take care of.
It's the real thing, Minerva pronounced grimly. A real-life skeleton.
It's Ruby Onehorn,
Gotina whispered. Whatever that thing is, I don't like it, Silver said from the doorway. Look at the hooves. If you just look at the hooves, it looks like a goat. It is a goat, Minerva explained. It's her bones and hooves and horns. Everything the worms don't eat. I learned about it in a book called Marvels of the Body that this girl, Layla, once read to her little brother. That's Ruby's bones. She laid down there to die 100 years ago. This is all that's left.
It's so sad,
Gotina whispered.
It's all true. They really did lock her up in here with all this creepy stuff. To die all alone.
Nuh-uh, I don't believe it, Silver said, shaking her head. I ain't gonna be a pile of bones someday. I'll be the strongest, most powerful goat ever, the most powerful herd queen.
Ruby was a herd queen,
Minerva answered her. And Silver, you've cracked me with that skull of yours enough times to let me know for sure you're made of bones inside. Same as Ruby here. Silver reared up and cracked her head against Minerva's as if to knock her words away. I'm getting out of here. It's my dinner time. Reared back and wheeled around, stamping her hooves and shaking her head with its bristling spine, ran from the room and went crashing down the corridor the way they had come. The sight of Silver's white tail flag up in alarmed retreat triggered the others' herd flight response, and they followed her, crashing blindly through the dark tunnel of the center barn. Sometime in their flight through the passage, the yellow bulbs sputtered feebly and gave up and flickered out, so that when they came to the opening on the other side, the only light was from the last orange glow of the sun, now set, coming through the windows. They ran to the window they'd smashed on entering, and Silver, in the lead, jumped her front hooves on the windowsill and let out a bleat of horror. Bah! What is it? Minerva asked, catching up to her. We can't climb down! Gotina and Minerva hopped their front hooves to the windowsill and looked down in dismay. Their staircase of crates was gone, and a bone-breaking 3-story drop lay between them and the sweet ground. What happened? Gotina bleated, but Minerva didn't answer because Silver had gone completely crap. She smashed her horns against the windowsill 4 times until Minerva heard the wood cracking. Minerva knocked her away from the window. Stop that! You'll crash through and fall out. But Silver was not deterred. She reared back, knocked Minerva out of the way, and went on, smashing walls and boxes at random. Let me out! I need to go home and eat apples and grain. Silver knocked over 2 more teetering towers of boxes and old veterinary equipment. Ancient boots, gramophone records, and dinner service for 14 all came smashing to the ground. Then Silver smashed up against the wall of the barn in a weak spot. The wood cracked, and Silver's horn, pulling back, got caught in the crack. In the moment of silence created by her struggling to free her horn, they were able to hear the terrible roar with perfect clarity. They would have heard it anyway. It came from right below them and was aimed at them. Even so, in the silence, they heard the wet smacking of the terrible mouth that opened to emit the roar. They heard the grumbling growl that rolled through the roar and rattled the floorboards, the growling grunt that led out of it, the terrible searching sniffs that came after. The 3 goats went silent and stared at each other with terrorized eyes. They could hear it moving around underneath them, underneath the things. They could hear it smelling them. They could hear with their long, sensitive ears the sound of its enormous paws, patting on a floor that seemed right below them, much closer than they knew the ground to be. The 3 goats moved no muscle, save to lift their ears up to take in more sound. Slowly the sniffling sounds, the soft paw falls, the little searching grunts grew quieter. Minerva drew 1 breath. Then the yellow bulb that hung from the ceiling a few meters down the passage from them buzzed suddenly to life and flashed, strobed, illuminating the floorboards beneath it. And right then, the floorboards beneath it jumped. There was a thumping noise. Planks in that spot rose an inch, then fell. Seconds later, it bumped and rose again, a little higher. "There's a gate in the floor!" Minerva gasped. A gate or a trap door. And the gate, or trap door, would likely have rose much wider, much higher on the 3rd bump if Silver had not sprung into action. She put her head down and charged spectacularly, making contact with the lowest box in a formidable tower of boxes. Her aim was true, and the entire stack of crates fell crashing right onto the trap door as it rose a 3rd time. There was a horrible crashing noise. These boxes had been filled with cast-iron tractor engine parts. And then an anguished yowl, and the sound of something falling and crashing several times on the way down.
Take that, chupacabra!
Silver crowed, running over to dance on the trap door. There was only silence below. "You won't be sucking any goats on Silver's watch!" Gotina stepped timidly over to inspect Silver's work. The gate in the floor was solidly weighed down with 5 spilled crates and their heavy metal contents, and the thing that roared, whatever it was, had, by the sound of it, taken the crack of 1,000 goat butts to the head. Gotina draped her head affectionately over Silver's neck. "Knew you'd protect us." "Strongest goat of all time!" Silver thundered. "Oh, okay, well, I thought, that was bad. Silver, nice work." Minerva's whole body shuddered, and the sparkling things around her neck felt nice and cool on the top of her skin. She thought suddenly of Layla, and she thought to herself, "I have to survive to get out of this." The yellow bulb, which had flashed right above the trapdoor, flickered weakly, then went out. Gotina stared wonderingly after it. Ruby warned us."
Come on, Pearl. come do the chores with me.
Pearl answered. She covered her eyes with her paws.
Come on, Pearl. Look, I don't know what you did in here, but you need to go outside and pee at least. Pearl, I know you miss FM, but you can't trash your house and then refuse to go outside.
Pearl pushed her head under the bed.
Pearl,
Sawyer stopped and sniffed the air.
did you burn something? How did you burn something? All right, Pearl, have it your way, but you better not pee in here. I'm going to leave the door open so you can go out. But tomorrow you're coming to do chores.
Yes, Pearl thought as he retreated. Leave me to my humiliation. The goats don't respect me. FM left me in charge, and I can't even protect FM's house from a squirrel. Sawyer closed in the chickens without comment. What's up with him? The Australorp asked Uncle Rusty. He didn't even call you Chanticleer. Sawyer moved on to the pigs. The pigs had been waiting for him all day. Would he return to feed them reliably, as FM did? Did he know how to access the boxes of stale donuts? Did he understand just how many cartons of sour milk they required? Did he have any meat or apples? Would he tell them more about the Russian Revolution and the animal farm and their glorious role in the necessary social evolutionary or something? Would he explain more about sleeping in the house? Sawyer silently poured out the milk and distributed the donuts, apples, and a jumbo bag of expired filet-o fish, all without a word. Finally, over the milk, one of the pigs managed to catch his eyes with her piercing black beady eye. Once he looked at her, he noticed that all the pigs were staring at him, questioningly.
What? Didn't I give you enough milk?
The pig slurped her milk, but kept her eyes locked with his.
Pearl
Sawyer let out an exasperated sigh.
won't come out of the house, and I think she went on some kind of rampage. Also, we have a new neighbor, and he's... I'm not one to say I have a bad feeling about him, because usually when people say that, they're just falling prey to stereotypes. So I won't say that I have a bad feeling about him. I just don't want him around my mother. She's gotten even weirder since I went away to college last year. And I don't like that she won't give my brother and sister a pet. I don't want them warped in their upbringing. Well, not like myself.
The pigs were all finished eating. They stared at him expectantly.
I mean, I like the way I am. I'm just not sure my mother is qualified to raise children.
The pigs looked at one another. So, no more information about the Red Army today, they concluded. They broke the gaze and ran off to throw themselves into their mud wallow. Sawyer sighed and went on to the goats. FM told him that the goats usually settled into their own beds around sunset, and he was to give each one a little fresh grain and water, then lock them into their stalls for the night. FM had put up the names of each goat on the stall where they typically slept. The first stall belonged to Goatco Ono.
You're quite something.
Sawyer said, giving the blind, grizzled goat her grain.
You've been through the war, haven't you?
She stared back at him, a steely look of defiance in her eyes.
Pardon me, ma'am.
The label on the next stall read, The Yearlings, Minerva, Raffaella, Stefania. There were no goats within this stall.
Huh? Where are you?
He gave a cursory glance around the barn and the barnyard area.
Maybe you're visiting someone in their stall.
The next stall read Liz Oates and Butt Midler, nannies.
Hello, Liz Oates. Butt Midler.
Sawyer said, a little self-consciously, and tipped an imaginary hat to them while he poured out their grain. "Moo!" came an angry bleat from the next stall. He went over to find a sturdy nanny with one kid waiting at the door, letting out another bleat. "Moo!" and looking past him.
And you are...
He read the sign.
Lady Baba and 2 kids. Huh? I only see 1 kid. Are you looking for your other baby?
Bah! Wailed the goat. Her cry was picked up and echoed by the goat in the final stall. With a sinking feeling, Sawyer ran to check on this last goat, and his suspicions were confirmed. Mama Chichi, nanny with 2 kids, had only 1 kid and was bleating fiercely in her own doorway. Bah!
What the? I'm missing 5 goats?
Sawyer dropped the grain pail and ran, panicked, out to scour the barnyard. There was not a single goat to be seen.
Bah!
He called, imitating the plaintive summons of the nannies in their barn. He ran outwards in circles around FM's barn, checking the pig and chicken enclosures.
Pearl, I need your help!
He yelled as he passed FM's cabin, but Pearl stayed where she was.
Surely they're eating her pumpkins or apples or kale,
he said to himself. And when he came to the pumpkin patch, he certainly found the hallmark devastation that marks a goat's passage through a garden, but no goats. In a flash, he recalled his mother complaining about finding goat droppings in her winter stores of alpaca hay, and he sprinted across the fence to his mother's hay barn. He threw open the door and...
What are you doing in here?
escaped his mouth. 2 goats, yearlings rather than babies by the looks of them, were standing in the middle of his mother's barn floor, surrounded by an odd assortment of ropes, chains, animal crates, live rat traps. One of them had an old leash in her mouth.
What? What are you doing? Why are you in here? Why didn't you come when I called you?
The young goats seemed to stare defiantly at him.
Are the others with you? 3 more are missing,
he babbled, looking around the barn. Stephanie and Rafaela, for that is who they were, looked at each other. 3 more goats were missing? Who else was missing, they wondered. Had the demon dog struck already? When Sawyer had determined that no other goats were in his mother's barn, he went and took Rafaela and Stephanie by their collars.
Take that old leash out of your mouth. Why are you 2 into all this stuff anyway? I don't remember it being scattered around like this. Did you 2 knock the stuff off the shelves? You can't eat old rope, you know.
Bah!
The goat answered, and to Sawyer, she sounded strangely offended by the suggestion that she was trying to eat the old leash.
Come on. I've got to get you back to the barn.
Well, listeners, thanks for tuning in. Are you all right? Are you feeling safe? Are you feeling worried? Are you feeling like Sawyer running through the darkness? I mean, you, listener, at least above Sawyer, have knowledge of where those sweet little goats are. But you know more than he does. In a bad way, too. You have some sense of what danger is lurking beneath the floorboards in the darkened barn. Listeners, please send your questions and comments to us at goodamericannovel@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. In particular, we would like to know, we are still soliciting your questions from yourself or your younger generations about the nature of FM radios, cassette tapes, VHS, VCR, taping off the radio, taping your afternoon shows while you're at work with a timer on the VCR, and what's up with movie stores anyway, video rental places, and how is the radio different from a streaming service? Ask us about antennas. The Good American Novel is produced by me, Hildy Festerling, with incredible help from my astonishingly talented family. My child, Ursula Buker, my niece, Erin Alden, Gabriel Alden, Caleb Alden, Johnny Buker. What actors? You know, listener, you might try getting your family
to do some theater with you sometime. You just might never, ever know what kind of brilliance is lurking right under your nose. Take care of one another. I'll take care of the goats while you're away. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Mwah.